This will be quick. Francis Chiappa, maybe you would stand up, longtime chair of Cleveland Peace Action. That's number one. When I put newsletters for Peace Action on both doors, enough to go around, but you'll see what we do. The second thing is, we mentioned Shereen Abu Akleh, but I would mention Noura Erakat, who spoke to us in 2019 in Cleveland, inspirational, but since then, her relative was shot down while he was on his way to getting married, if I remember. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
And so Noura Erakat here in the United States had to live with the loss of her beloved relative in the West Bank. So there's the Noura Erakat program, so we have lots and lots of people to remember. The last thing I'll say is, get organized. Organized people can win against organized money. We know $100 billion is slated for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Palestine. So that's who's unified against us. They won't do a ceasefire. Let's have a ceasefire.
Israel.
Thank you, Chair. The gentleman over here. What's your name? Patrick. Thank you.
My name is Patrick. I wondered whether there's a mechanism in place where the media gets notified ahead of time of all these protests so that they can be there filming this or writing about it the next day in the paper, and whether that will happen on Monday.
Can I answer that? Yes. We send out press releases all the time, and they don't come. They don't cover these demonstrations like they do other demonstrations. We had, how many people did we have on Public Square on November 4th? One TV station showed up, and there was no coverage in the Plain Dealer the next day. So this is our local media that's failing us. And I would say, in line with this, the Israeli narrative is told very well. They have a wonderful public relations arm that amplifies this, and of course the Jewish community here follow suit with that. Up to now, we haven't really heard the Palestinian story. We have in this room, but it hasn't echoed beyond us. But I agree with what a few people have said here tonight. This is the moment. This is the moment where that is going to be, where we have to shine a light on Palestine and show that Palestine does have the right to exist. And we have to guarantee that by our presence.
Thank you, Francis. I was just going to suggest that maybe if flyers could be handed out to people as well, because there's a lot of bystanders that they're not part of this movement. And if they're given something in paper to take home with them, then maybe they'll start getting involved. So that's a suggestion I'd like to make at every protest. If some piece of paper could be handed out, telling people of the different groups that they can be involved in, what they can do, something of that nature. We need to inform people.
Thank you, Patrick. Oh, we have a response.
I have a response to that. That's a very good idea. For as long as I've been doing the demonstrations down there against the baseball team, the paper ends up on the ground. It's been my experience, and what I've done is actually pulling people to the side, especially when they ask, well, what is this about? And then talking to them, taking that time while you're down there to actually talk to them. And give you an example of what I'm talking about. Back in 1999, we had our conference on racism in sports and media over at Cleveland College. We did a funeral procession with a Chief Wahoo that was liberated from someone's front yard. And the artist had built a coffin, and we went around the entire complex, Gateway Complex. And then we burned that effigy in a 55-gallon drum that we liberated from somebody's property the night before. And that was Vernon Belcourt's idea. We had a Polish man from Parma come there, and he asked what this is about, and we spoke to him. And this is what I'm talking about. When you connect to people from here, from your heart, you see it in their eyes. You know when they get it. Because I stood there and explained to him, I said, it's just like what the oppression that we feel It's the same kind of oppression that Polish Jews felt during Hitler's reign of terror. And he stood there with that baseball cap on, and he took it off and he started crying. And he said, "My father bought me this when I was a young boy, and had I known that it hurt people that badly, I would have never worn it." And he threw it in the fire. And all of us young guys, I was young back then, we went nuts, hooping and hollering, but you could see in his eyes when it clicked, when he got it, when he was enlightened. That's what I'm talking about when we do demonstrations. And I heard somebody in the community, you know, I'm going to name her name, Cynthia Conley, sat there at a meeting with us and said, "I don't know why you guys still continue to do demonstrations. They don't work." Now, we're talking about the person that is now the program director for the City Club of Cleveland, who's not from Cleveland, and is only pushing her own agenda here, using our Native community to push herself up. Those are the things that are going on behind the scenes in our community. For her to sit there and say that it doesn't work is not true. Because what did it take for them to finally change that? Unfortunately, it took the murder of a black man that wasn't even in this state, because they couldn't say anything about it while they were still perpetrating the oppression against our people. They had to change it. They had no choice. And I feel it's absolutely disgusting that we fought for almost 60 years against that baseball team, and it took the murder of a black man to get them to open their eyes.
Yep.
So when you're down there at the demonstration, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be there. I took a house painting job in Florida because there's not much work here for me. So my prayers are going to be with you guys down there. I'm going to put down my tobacco, and I'm going to send up smoke to give you guys strength to get through it and pull them people aside and talk to them one-on-one. That is the best way to change people's hearts and minds.
Thank you, cousin. I wanted to respond to your statement question as well really quickly. Two things. It is helpful when we have our own media folks, people who decide what the picture is and what the narrative is that they're going to share to the media, sometimes after the fact, because we want to control the narrative about like how what our demands are and how we've been treated in our struggle. The other thing is sometimes we can't always put press releases out before the event because of security reasons. Because the state is getting more and more repressive, we have to be really careful sometimes about what our targets are and let people know after the fact how courageous and bold we were. But I would just encourage everyone, like our sibling Phil here has said, these relationships take time. So if you're new to the movement, that's great, we welcome you. We're so grateful that you're here. Take a moment to build the relationships and to just keep listening. The groups to follow and the people to follow, they will make themselves known because you'll keep seeing them over and over again.
One of the deadly sins is supposed to be pride, but I'm proud that I started this committee, Middle East Peace Committee of Peace Action, probably, I don't know how many, 20 years ago? I don't know. But with Doug Kerr, and it was great. We started things, we were advised at the time not to do that because of the strength of the Jewish Community Federation, the voice of power, and we were advised not to do it because it would tear our organization apart. And I remember around that time that I met Jeffrey, your father, and Jeff, you called me brother because I think I was one of the only Jewish people that was speaking for Palestinian rights at the time. But I will say that about myself is that I am the son of a Nazi Holocaust survivor. My mom was one of the first peace activists I knew. She was on the Peace March with Don and Stephen and other people. But she, at 93, is still speaking to groups about her escaping from Nazi Germany. And when I say she's a Nazi Holocaust survivor, I specifically say it that way because there are other Holocausts. There have been other Holocausts. There still are other Holocausts. Last thing I'll say is that I have a 12-and-a-half-year-old daughter that when I called her on the phone today and said I was coming to this, I asked her what message she would want me to share. She said, oh, and choked up. She said, sham. That's her friend who lives in Israel. She's a Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, who she befriended while she lived in Beechwood for a couple of years, and her family moved back there in June. And my daughter is just as worried about her as she is my dozens of Israeli Jewish relatives that live in Israel. Some of whom, most of whom were opposed to the occupation, but some of whom, since October 7th, have been called back to fight in the Israeli army. And I think about what if one of my relatives killed one of Sham's family. The last thing I will say is that, as Philip suggests, we have to understand that there are different points of view. There are Zionists who oppose the occupation. There are Zionists who believe in Palestinian rights. I'm one of them.
Thank you, David. Do we have any other questions from the audience? I see Amira over there, so I'm going to bring it over to her.
It's not a question. I just want to say, as the Shoshone Paiute Palestinian woman who lived the first years of her life on Duck Valley, my reservation, I'm so proud of all of you. This makes my heart happy.
What's your name?
Hi guys, I'm Shereen.
Hi, Shereen.
So, I don't know if any of you guys know about how Israel had a protest in Washington right after ours. So I did just see on social media that people are forwarding it. It says, please everyone call this number and tell them that we thank the bus drivers for walking off the job taking Israel supporters to Washington, D.C. Pro-Israel protest and not supporting the genocide in Gaza. Press 0 for the operator and please get it done ASAP. So apparently the bus drivers that did take the Israeli supporters, you know, the pro-Israels, they walked off on the job. So, so there was no way of, you know, people coming from Detroit or anywhere that the bus drivers picked them up, there was no way on getting home. And then there was another post later on saying that their flights that they did book to get back home were all delayed. So there was no way of them getting back home for probably another 2 days.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. So I'm going to bring it to Kim for a quick question.
There is something inspiring that I remember. Janet Lair was on our Cleveland Peace Action Board, and when the drivers drove into the mosque door to try to attack the mosque, the Grand Mosque. People remember that? In 2009, some people do. Janet's friend Vera Hall said, we've got to go out on the rain and sit in front of the shop of our favorite Palestinian restaurant to let people know that we stand between the people who might come and attack the shop and the shop owner who's always treated us well. So it's little acts of courage like that. She was 90 years old at that time. She's since passed. And so I think we stand on the shoulders of the women as well as the men who came before us and honor the elders and then get out in the street. Mother Jones said, warn the dead and work like hell for the living.
Any other questions? Okay. Hi, nice to meet you.
You too. It's very inspiring to see so many young people getting involved, because that is what it's going to take, and for you to passing the baton down. So thank you all, you young people, for getting involved.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay.
I also wanted to let everybody know to check out the different AIM chapters pages. I just saw before I came here today that there was something going on with AIM Southern California over the past couple of days. They've had their rallies with the Palestinian people there. There's been rallies all over where full chapters have actually been there and did speaking engagements also. I kind of wish that our chapter, we had more membership, more people involved, but with the state of some of the young people nowadays, you know, there's something that we are mandated to be a member of the American Indian movement and to be on a board position. You cannot have any drugs or alcohol in your system. And that's including Pajit, which all you know as cannabis. Our people didn't use it the way it's used now. So to get membership into our organization is very difficult because everybody's out there getting stoned, or they're still on the white man's poison. But yeah, definitely, I would definitely check out some of the AIM pages and support them, you know, in their struggles with what's going on here. You know, we talk about the, you know, some kid come to me about what the pastor said about reservations, you know, and probably a lot of you don't know this, so here's a little Native American history during Native American History Month. We call them reservations, and that's what the government calls them. But what they don't want you to know is that they're actually considered prisoner of war camps, and each one of them has a separate number. Prisoner of war camp, such and such.
They're gulags.
Yeah, and in my opinion, Gaza is a prisoner of war camp. When you look at how many people are in that small area, so it's almost like if they would do that to our people, cram them all in there, instead of bombing us, what they did was they went in there and they stole our kids and put them in boarding schools where they knew these priests and nuns were raping them, killing them, burying them with no headstones. It's disgusting that all these children, our future of humanity, is gone from that area, you know, and it's both sides, Palestinian babies and Israeli babies.
Thank you two for emceeing tonight, and Jeffrey. Yes. We were going to do breakouts and talk about, you know, strategizing for the future, but we're not going to do that tonight because it went over a little bit. But the breakout groups were action, BDS, intersectionality, and outreach. But on BDS, that's boycott, divestment, and sanctions, let's keep in mind that the Cuyahoga County Council Treasurer has purchased $19 million in Israel bonds. Not only is it a bad investment, but it's also extremely racist and it's demeaning, and it benefits the occupation.
It entrenches the occupation. It pays for the settlement.
It pays for the occupation. And the state of Ohio has purchased $105 million in bonds over the years, Israel bonds, okay? So what we're asking is to go to the Cuyahoga County Council meeting and testify against the impropriety of them buying these bonds. There's been a few of us there over the years. It's time to start going back again. And C had a great idea to close us out with a song. Thank you so much tonight for everything.
Thank you. I think we just need to, like, you know, really get in our bodies for a second and just like release something. So I'll teach the song really quickly. Join in when you're able. The words are: rebel against the wars they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us get this right. Rebel for all the children in Gaza tonight. This is a song by the Peace Poets.
Rebel against the wars they sell. Rebel against the wars they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us get this right. Rebel and let us get this right. Rebel for all the children in Gaza tonight. Rebel for all the children in Gaza tonight. Rebel against the wars they sell. Rebel against the wars they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us get this right. Rebel and let us get this right. Rebel for all the children in Gaza tonight.